So let's carry on. Here we have Elijah. Remember, Elijah just anointed Elisha to take his place. Elijah knew that God was going to take Elisha knew that God was going to take Elijah away from him. He knew. And if you saw, Elijah's trying to dump him every chance he gets. He's like, stay here. And Elisha's like, no way am I going to stay here. And everywhere he goes, the prophets are like, hey, did you know today that Elijah is going to be gone? It's like, thank you. I'm a prophet too. Yes, of course I knew. Come on. And it's frustrating, but it's really sad because he loves him dearly. They're very close. Elijah has taught Elisha many things, and they've been through a lot together. So they made it to the river Jordan, and Elijah struck it with his mantle, and it parted, and they crossed on dry ground. And finally Elijah said, okay, what do you want? Elisha said, I want a double portion of your spirit. And Elijah said, if you see me when I'm taken up, then you will have it. Of course, he does see him, and God grants it to him. So Elijah goes up to heaven in a chariot of fire. Remember, God took Enoch alive as well in Genesis 5:24. Flash forward, there are two witnesses in the book of Revelation, in Revelation 11:3-12. So I think it's not a stretch to say we have two men in the Bible that never died. And for what purpose they never died, I'm not sure. These two witnesses can call all sorts of fire from heaven, like Elijah did, when the company of 50 came, the two companies of 50. And so it may be. I don't have a problem with it. The problem I would have is if I wouldn't be overly dogmatic about it and say, no, it has to be those two. It's those two, I know it. Because for all we know, these guys were taken into heaven and that's where they're going to stay forever. And they're not going to come back here. And it may be two other people that haven't been born yet. Or maybe there's two people that are 12 years old right now. I don't know. But we'll see. It makes sense to me. It makes total sense. And it's kind of cool because Enoch is pre-flood. Elijah's post-flood. So, anyway. Elisha took the mantle of Elijah, and he also crossed. He said, all right, well, where is the Lord? And he also crosses the Jordan on dry ground, and he became the leader of the prophetic community. All of them recognized that. The prophets said, well, we're going to search for Elijah. Elisha knew that they would be searching in vain, but he said, you're not going to find him, but go ahead. Because they thought maybe the Spirit took him somewhere else, but no, he went to heaven. So Elisha told them not to go, but they went ahead and go, and they didn't find him, of course. The water, now there's a lot of miracles that go on here. The water in the city of Jericho was bad. Elisha miraculously made it better. He left there and went to Bethel. Children were making fun of him as a prophet. These children at Bethel were making fun of him, and they said, go, you bald head. There's nothing in the world wrong with being bald. Do not insult bald people, or you will be attacked by bears. That's right. So he cursed them for it, and bears came out and attacked 42 of these kids. So it wasn't...
Like kids are our version of kids, right?
I don't know. They were children.
What age group? I don't know, because that was a big discussion. It was like, we're talking about children, but...
Well, there's a huge group of them, right? It's not just like one or two, oh, go, you bald head. I'm sure that they were probably in his face. It may have been teenagers. I don't know. But bears came out and attacked them to shut them up. Then he went to Mount Carmel. Remember, that's where the big standoff was between the prophets of Baal and Elijah. And then he went to Samaria, which is the capital of Israel. Okay, so let's look at some other of Elisha's attesting miracles. The prophet's widow that needed money, and she had empty jars of oil, and one jar that had oil, and she kept pouring oil into all the jars, and she was able to able to have enough money to pay for her debts and prevent her children from being slaves. There was the barren woman that showed kindness to him. He had opened her womb and she had a child. That same child died, and Elisha brought him back to life. There was a poisoned stew. There was a famine and a poisoned stew that the prophetic community was starting to eat. And they said, there's poison in the stew. He healed the stew. And he was also able to multiply food, which is pretty fascinating. A borrowed axe head that one of the prophets was using fell into water, and Elisha was able to make it rise so that it could be found and returned to its rightful owner. But these are all attesting miracles that are attesting to his special, as head of the prophetic community, his special role, and the one who is taking the place of Elijah. These guys had a very important role to play in the prophetic history of Israel, the northern kingdom. Elisha had a servant named Gehazi who was able to see all of these things and still be a jerk. But we'll get into that in a moment. Naaman. Naaman was a captain in the army of Aram. He was a good man and a good warrior, but he had leprosy. And he had a servant girl who was from Israel. And he said, she overheard him talking about leprosy, and she said, if only you could go to the holy man in Israel, you could be healed. And so he's like, okay, cool. I can go to Elisha. And so Ben-Hadad, who we've already heard before, Ben-Hadad of Aram, or the Arameans, okay, he writes a letter to King Jehoram of Israel saying, hey, you need to heal my captain of leprosy. And of course, Jehoram's like, he's trying to pick a fight with me. He tells me to heal his captain. I can't heal his captain. He's trying to pick a fight with me, and I know it. But Elisha heard about it and told King Jehoram that he would handle it. So it's really cool. That's what happens. Naaman came to Elisha. Elisha didn't even come to he came to his door. Naaman came to Elisha's door. Elisha didn't even come to the door. Elisha sent his servant to say, Elisha says, dip 7 times in the Jordan and you'll be healed. Well, this ticked Naaman off. Gehazi Elisha's servant told him, dip yourself 7 times. And Naaman's like, that's ridiculous. Guy didn't even come to me. And we have better rivers in Aram that I could dip myself in. And he's furious. But his servants say, hey, look, if he'd have told you to do some great thing, would you have done it? Yeah. Well, how much cooler will it be if you do this lame thing and it works out? And so he does it. And he's healed. And boy, he's so happy about it. He goes back and he says, I want to pay you money. And he's going to take dirt from Israel and never sacrifice to his gods again. And he wants to pay money. And Elisha says, man, I don't need your money. This man is really cool. He became a believer. And it's easy for people to miss this part. He renounced the existence of all other gods. And he asked the Lord to pardon him if he continued to play the part in the temples up in Aram, if he bowed down. He's like, I'll bow down, but I don't believe in these gods. I only believe in the real God, not the fake God. So this is a guy who turned. Now, there were many lepers in Israel in his day. I didn't do that cross-reference to Jesus pointing that out, but only Naaman was healed. So he went away with dirt from Israel, and he gave no gifts to Elisha. But Gehazi, being greedy, the servant of Elisha, waited, and then he went and tracked down Naaman and said, Elisha said that you need to provide clothes and some money for one of his servants who's going through a hard time. And Naaman's like, you got it. I don't care what he wants. I'll give him whatever. So he gives it to him. Gehazi does that. As if you can trick a prophet. I mean, can you imagine? He's back at his house watching God's direct TV, watching Gehazi do this stuff.
Wheel of Fortune.
And so Elisha curses Gehazi with leprosy. Said the leprosy he was healed from will cling to you and your household. So you can't fool a prophet. You can try, but no good. So Ben-Hadad was sending marauding bands into Israel. Not an official invasion by the Arameans, just a bunch of marauders coming into Israel at the behest of Ben-Hadad. But everywhere that they went, Elisha knew. And so they were trying to get the king, Jehoram, but they weren't able to. And Ben-Hadad was so mad about it, he said, who's the traitor? Which one of you is the traitor? And they said, none of us. It's Elisha. He knows what you whisper in your tent. He's a prophet of God. If you kill him, this will stop. And so the marauders surround the city where Elisha was staying because they're going to kill him. Okay, so and the city will either deliver up Elisha or they'll be killed. Of course, there's an angel army surrounding the marauders. Elisha's servant was afraid, but Elisha prayed that the Lord would open his servant's eyes, and his servant saw it. This great army of angels. He says, we have nothing to be afraid of. Greater are those with us than those with them. Which is cool. So then Elisha prayed that they would all be struck blind. So you've got this massive army of marauders that are struck blind. Elisha goes out to them and says, oh, no, the one you're looking for, I will lead you to him. Yes, lead us to him. And they listen to Elisha. And they're blind. And so he leads them all the way to Samaria and then opens their eyes. Which is really cool because it's like leading them into their enemy's castle. Surprise! And then Jehoram said, let me kill him. Let me kill them. But Elisha said, no. I brought them in here, feed them. Feed them and take care of them and send them on their way. So they could see, but the marauders stopped coming into Israel after that. So kill them with kindness instead. But Jehoram wanted to kill them with swords. So Ben-Hadad now assembled his army to do an official invasion. Not an invasion by proxy. The marauders was an invasion by proxy. You understand the difference? So this is an official invasion. So Ben-Hadad now goes and he besieges Samaria. And the Samaria was so bad that the people were eating their children. Which is a fulfillment of the curses in Deuteronomy, specifically 28:53 through 57. Because they had turned from the Lord and were worshiping other gods. So rather than repent, Jehoram blames Elisha. Because Elisha let the marauders go, it showed weakness. So he sent someone to kill Elisha, and then Elisha prophesied that they would be delivered and filled with food the next day. He said, you are wrong about me. And plus, you're wrong about the situation. You're going to be delivered. Because they were selling donkey heads and eating those sorts of things. And so the Lord sent a great sound of chariots, and the Arameans got so scared that they abandoned the field. And they left all their stuff behind, all their supplies, all their food, all their snuff, all their tobacco, everything. And the Israelites, they were able to go. The 4 lepers went out to check it out to see what was going on, and they saw, man, there's all this stuff here. And the Israelites came and got all of the so much food and supplies that it went exactly like Elisha said. There was so much food that it was cheap to buy. So much food and stuff. After that, the woman whose son Elisha raised from the dead, she had been in, because there was a famine going on, she had been in Philistia. She'd stayed with him, and she had lost her land because Jehoram had taken it. Jehoram gave it back to her, which was the right thing to do. So Ben-Hadad got sick, and then Elisha came to Aram. Remember, he's the king of Aram, Ben-Hadad. Ben sent gifts to Elijah, realizing that he was a legitimate prophet now, after all these things had taken place. And he sent Hazael with the gifts to inquire of Elisha. Hazael is going to be the next king of Aram, and Hazael is the one that Elijah was supposed to go and anoint king. And that Hazael was going to be a tool of the Lord to attack Israel. And so now you have, Elisha knows all this, and you have Hazael coming to him to send him these things. And then he's staring at him, and he starts crying. But Elisha prophesied that Jehoram would recover from the sickness, even though Elisha knew that he would die. Elisha's not lying. He will recover from the sickness. He's staring at Hazael, and he starts crying because Hazael's like, why are you crying? He's like, because I know what you're going to do, how many Israelites you're going to kill, how many widows you're going to make. I know. And Hazael's like, what am I? I'm nobody. So then Hazael comes back and smothers the king that night. He acted like he was nothing, but he suffocated him. He soaked a cloth and put it over his face. So Ben-Hadad would have recovered from the sickness, but he was going to die.
Say what?
Elisha prophesied that Ben-Hadad would recover from the sickness, and it's not the sickness that killed him. He died of Hazael. he died of, he was suffocated. Hazaelitis. Is that what he said? Hazaelitis, that's right. So Hazael became king. Remember, that's the guy that Elijah was supposed to anoint as king and who was going to be a tool to fight against Israel. Now Ben-Hadad was sick and he died. King Ahaziah. Ooh, I had 2 extra slides in there. King Ahaziah was co-regent of Judah, was co-regent with Jehoram, king of Judah, not Jehoram, not to be confused with Jehoram of Israel. King Ahaziah joined King Jehoram to fight against the Arameans at Ramoth Gilead. This is where Jehoshaphat and Ahab fought the alliance. Okay. So he joined to fight against them there. King Jehoram of Israel was injured and he had to leave, and King Ahaziah of Judah went with him. Okay. And King Jehoram comes from the line of... King Jehoram of Israel comes from which line? Ahab. Yeah, I know. It's a lot. So Elisha came and anointed Jehu to be king over Israel. And he was commissioned to carry out God's judgment against the house of Ahab. So Jehu's going to be the new king of Israel. And Elisha prophesied that he would. And Jehu is going to go and take care of Jehoram of Israel. So Jehu gathered his followers and went to kill Jehoram, king of Israel, and Ahaziah, king of Judah. And he killed them both. It's a cool story. I mean, it would be a good movie. I know that Hollywood would screw it up, but it'd be good. So he killed Jehoram, and Ahaziah escaped, but they found him later and killed him. But they allowed his body to be taken back because he's the son of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat was a good king. And so Jehu respected that. Jehu is going to be one of the only good king of Israel, and he's not really good. He also had Jezebel killed. This was cool. When Jezebel he comes into the city where Jezebel's at. She's got herself all dolled up, and she's in her house, and she calls down to him and says, "Hey Zimri," she calls him Zimri. "How you doing, Zimri?" Zimri's the king that reigned for 7 days. "You killed your master, Zimri?" And she's all bragging, thinking that Israel's not going to support this guy. Israel's going to kill Jehu, and somebody else from her line will be on the throne. And then he yells up, "Who is for Jehu? Throw that woman down." And so down she went, and then he goes upstairs. And later when they come out, there's nothing left of her but her hands and her skull because the dogs had eaten the rest. Yeah, it's prophesied, that's right. Thus died the wicked kings, Jehoram and Ahaziah. So King Jehu of Israel, he's off to an awesome start. He's constantly referring to Elijah's prophecy and his zeal for the Lord, and how he killed off the line of Ahab. He sounds like he's totally going to be a godly King Jehu. He said, this was great. I hope you read it. It's so cool. He sets up the prophets of Baal. He said, my father worshipped them a little. I'm going to worship Baal a lot. So we're going to have a massive Baal festival, and I will worship him more than the other kings. And all the prophets of Baal come up, and all the worshipers of Baal come up, and then he has them all killed. So much for that. Yet he still fell into the sin of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. But he was the best king in Israel. He just had bad theology about the idols at Dan and Bethel. All right, meanwhile, with the death of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Queen Athaliah is alive, and she's the mother of King Ahaziah of Judah, and possibly the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. When she heard her son was dead, she sought the throne by killing off the royal line. What a grandma. Grandma just loves you to death. Joash is the son of Ahaziah to escape. He's 1 year old. His sister took him away, and he was raised in the temple. Because he's never going to be found in the temple. She's never going to find him in the temple. You know why? She's not going to go to the temple. She's an evil woman, but she's a queen. There was a Levitical conspiracy against her. The Levites, the priests, they get together and say, we're going to declare Joash king. And they have a conspiracy. Joash is 7 years old when they do it. They renew the covenant with the Lord, and they kill Queen Athaliah. She dies. She's mad. Thus dies another wicked one. So the chief priest at the time was this man, Jehoiada. He was the chief priest that led the conspiracy. Okay? And he's also been raising King Joash. He's been mentoring the boy. And he's putting excellent reforms in place. This is a great man, Jehoiada. Okay? He's a great man. Joash was doing what was right in God's eyes for a while. Okay? He ensured that the temple was repaired and cared for as long as Jehoiada was alive. Jehoiada is pouring into the boy. The boy's growing up. The boy's got some good reforms going on. Yet he was giving 2 wives. The boy, as he's growing up, he's older now, he's given 2 wives, which transgresses Deuteronomy 17 and Genesis 2:24. Jehoiada died at the age of 130 years old, and they buried him with the kings of Judah. He was basically the operating king while Joash was a boy. So they bury him with the kings. So, but not officially King Jehoiada, but a very righteous man, a good man. And of course, once he died, I'm trying to go chronologically too. We'll pick up his story in a moment. But once Jehoiada dies, let's see what happens with King Joash of Judah. Meanwhile, King Jehoahaz of Israel, he walked in all the sins of Jeroboam. God sent Hazael of Aram against him, and the Israelite army was badly beaten down to basically nothing in his time. After the death of Jehoiada, King Joash, his new advisors came. So just like Rehoboam was listening to new advisors instead of the old wise guys, that's what happens here with King Joash of Judah. Okay? So he had new advisors that changed Joash's mind, and Joash, not Jehu, Joash turned to idolatry. Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, prophesied against him. Okay, the son of his mentor prophesies against him, and the response is to kill him, to stone him to death in the temple courtyard. Joash has really turned away from God. So God brought Hazael against Judah with a small army. This is a cool story. It's a small army. And that's the purpose of this other slide. After the small army came and had decimated Israel in the north, there wasn't many of them left. They came to deal with Judah in the south. And this small army of the Arameans defeated a large army of Judah, which was in accordance with the curses. The whole idea that if you are following God and being blessed, 100 of you will make 1,000 flee before you. But if you are doing the wrong thing, I don't care if you have 1,000, you will flee before 100. And so that's what happened here. And so Joash paid a mighty ransom from the temple in order to make it stop, and Hazael went away. He got his money and went away. That's always an ancient strategy. You know, if you can't beat them by force, you pay them enough money to make them go away. So Jehoash of Israel was co-regent with his father Jehoahaz. He also fell into the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. Yet when he heard that Elisha was dying, he went to visit him. And Elisha prophesied that they would defeat Aram 3 times. And Elisha died and was buried. Elisha died and was buried. Elijah did not, right? And the interesting thing is that where he was buried, there were some marauding bands that were coming from Moab, and there were some men burying somebody else. And as the marauding band was approaching, they had no time, and so they threw him into the burial place of Elisha. And the man's bones, or Elisha's bones, touched the man that was dead, and the man that was dead was healed by Elisha's bones. That's the best practice. Go and find Elisha's bones. Healing people after death. This is special, okay? Look, let me say this. These guys are not the norm. Elijah, Elisha, this is not the normal thing. Paul and the apostles, that's not the norm. But this type of stuff is used to manipulate so many people today. I've been seeing it for decades now. Oh, that person's a great healer. They've never healed anybody, but they claim these amazing powers. They claim that they go to heaven and have coffee with Jesus once a week. And that's not a joke. They claim these amazing things. It's because of stories like this. This is the exception, not the rule. These were holy people. How is your holy life going? Tell me about how the Lord has spoken to you verbally, where you hear him talking. Be very careful that you don't get taken in by charlatans who play on your knowledge of these sorts of things. As if to say, oh, that man, when I listened to this one guy talking, and he was sitting over the grave of somebody, and he was a mystic in the 1800s, and he's going like this, may his blessings heal you right now. It's like some mystical thing that's garbage. I will get angry if I talk about it longer, so let's talk about Hazael of Aram. Don't get fooled by it, though, please. Keep your guard up. Keep your guard up. Don't be afraid of the legitimate if you ever see it. Ask for a sign. And make sure they're in line with what the Lord is saying. All right, so Hazael, king of Aram, came against him, but they were delivered 3 times. So Elisha had told him to attack the ground, and he attacked the ground 3 times, and Elisha got mad and said, you should have done it a whole lot more. If you had done it, you would have been able to defeat Aram more, but since you only did it 3 times, you're only going to defeat him 3 times. So Israel defeated them 3 times, and they also recovered some cities. Blast. Okay. Now we get to King Amaziah. He was in Judah. Oh boy, I hope you're tracking with all this. He was co-regent with his father Joash. He killed the men that killed his father, but he let their innocent children live because, as it says in the law, that the children are not supposed to die for the sins of their father. He fought against Edom, and he hired men of Ephraim to join him. And then a prophet of God said, you're not going to win this battle with the men from Ephraim because they're wicked. He's like, but I already paid them. Well, send them away. So he sent the men of Ephraim away, and then they went into Edom without the men of Ephraim, and they had victory. Of course, the people of Ephraim were mad. Even though they got paid, what they were hoping is that they would go into Edom and get a bunch of booty. Spoils of war. Spoils of war. Why are the women the only ones laughing?
The class was totally different.
Yeah, so they were mad because they didn't get they were mad because they were expecting to make a lot more money than just what King Amaziah had paid them. So they in turn invaded Judah in order to make up for their losses. Okay? And then, I should put this in there. So they had victory against Edom, but the Ephraimites raided Judah. And then King Amaziah, brought the idols of Edom back from war, and he worshipped them. After King Amaziah of Judah had gone and defeated the Edomites, he took their gods and worshipped them, after God had given him the victory.
It's just, when you read that stuff, you just like, you keep
Yeah.
believing. It's like, what was because we just don't have attraction to idols, I guess. But back then, it's like they constantly wanted these idols.
So
That's where their faith was, though, right? I mean, they truly believed that it would help
Yeah,
them in
they did.
battle.
So, and this is why, look, I binge studied prepping for this. And I took so much in, and it was just hurting. That's why you're talking about crying about it, or actually crying about it. It's cry-worthy. How does this happen? How can they do this after all that the Lord has done and all that the Lord has threatened? Well, so Amaziah had that victory in Edom, against Edom. So then he thought that he would go and attack, and because Ephraim had attacked, he thought he would go and attack Jehoash of Israel and fight against them. But God was not with Judah because of the idolatry. He was with Judah when he defeated the Edomites, but now he is no longer going to be with King Amaziah of Judah because of the idolatry. And so they got beaten badly. In fact, Jehoash of Israel said, hey, look, just because you had a little victory in Edom doesn't mean you need to come picking on something that's going to kick your butt. Stay home. And he didn't. So Jerusalem's walls were knocked down in various places. The temple was plundered. Amaziah was captured. He wasn't killed. He was captured. He got released. But then many years later, he was killed by his own people. Amaziah was. All right, King Jeroboam II of Israel. King Jeroboam was co-regent with Jehoash, the king of Israel. So there's two Jeroboams. Remember that? He kept up with the sins of the original Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. Jonah was a prophet during his day, though. So I'm thinking that Jeroboam II was probably not worshiping all the other idols, but he was doing the Bethel and Dan idols that they had made, saying, these are your gods who brought you up out of Egypt. But Jonah was a prophet in his day, and God used Jeroboam to give them success and deliver them from their enemies and extend their borders. And here's another one of those moments you all were referring to earlier. Here's what it says in 2 Kings 14, 26 through 27. For the Lord saw the affliction of Israel, which was very bitter, for there was neither bond nor free, nor was there any helper for Israel. The Lord did not say that he would blot out the name of Israel from under heaven, but he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam, the son of Joash. So he saved them. Even though they're being unfaithful, he saved them. Okay? Oh, he's extended so much grace to them. Is God slow to anger or quick to anger? If we were the ones in charge of these people, would they still be around, or would they have been wiped out a long time ago? It's like Melissa said, wipe them out and find somebody who's going to do it right. Sin. All right, King Azariah, who's also King Uzziah. Oh, that's another thing. Kings have all sorts of different names. All right. So King Uzziah, he's going to be a co-regent for many years with his father and also with his own son. This is during the time of Isaiah, or Isaiah's during his time. Okay, and it's on account of his leprosy, which we'll get into that in a moment. He did what was right, but they still sacrificed to the high places to God, but they weren't supposed to because it's only supposed to be at the temple, right? And a prophet named Zechariah aided him. Boy, we get a lot of Zechariahs. Not one of them is the Zechariah from the book of Zechariah, just so you know. The book of Zechariah is written by a post-exile prophet. And it's not any of these guys. But he's got help from a prophet. The prophet's helping him. He defeated the Philistines and the Arabians, and he vassalized the Ammonites. And Ammon comes from who? Ammon and Moab come from?
They're cousins of...
Yes! They're cousins. From Lot. Lot and his two daughters. They had Ammon and Moab. Okay. All right. And what about the Arabians? The Arabians come from Abraham and Keturah. And Abraham and Hagar. And Abraham and Keturah. Because the Ishmaelites and then the sons of Abraham and Keturah all lived in Arabia. And they all mixed together. Okay. Skilled men created powerful weapons of war in his day. They had them set up on the walls where they could heft huge stones from the walls, I guess anti-siege weaponry. And his army was mighty. Very powerful king in Judah. But at the height of his power, pride got him. You start putting your faith in the weaponry, your faith in the numbers, your faith in the soldiers. He went to the holy place in the temple, not the Holy of Holies, but the holy place in the temple. So just outside the curtain, or where the ark is, inside the Holy of Holies, he's at the temple of incense, and he's going to offer incense. And the priest's like, "No, king, what are you doing? It's not for you to do. It's only for the sons of Aaron." And he's like, "Shut up, I can do what I want. You don't tell me what to do." He's all yelling at him, getting mad, and all of a sudden leprosy breaks out on him.
You're not the boss of me.
Yeah, "You're not the boss of me. Your Highness, you're a leper now." "What?" "Ah!" And so the priest told him to leave. He didn't do it. He got leprosy, and he had to put his son on the throne as co-regent. He reigns a long time, but he reigns a long time, reigning co-regency with his father and then co-regency with his son. This represents the time that he reigned where he wasn't co-regent, because he reigned for a long time. Then we have King Zechariah of Israel. He was wicked like the Jeroboams. He'd been Jeroboamized. However, God let the fourth generation of Jehu stay on the throne, of King Jehu of Israel stay on the throne. He made that promise to him in 2 Kings 10:30. So Jehu's line stayed on the throne to the fourth generation, because he was one of the best kings of Israel. But then Shallum conspired against him and killed him and took the throne. This is a good place to mention. You know, you can learn more about these people like Shallum and what happened with all this by reading Josephus. Okay, as if you didn't have enough to read. That's why I'm not assigning you anything else to read. Like I thought, I'll have him read some Josephus. No. So he became king. He reigned for 1 month. His tale is like Zimri. Remember Zimri that reigned for a week? Menachem came and killed him, and Menachem became king in Israel. By the way, we're getting close to the end of Israel. So Menachem was ruthless in his ascension. I won't even mention, but if you want to find out, 2 Kings 15:16, he does some terrible things to those who would not accept him right away. Oh, but that's the thing. You know, politics can make a terrible animal out of somebody to do exceedingly wicked things. Now you're looking it up. You're looking it up, aren't you, Erica?
She's a Berean.
She's a Berean. Fine. No, please do be a Berean. All right. He was also in line with the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. God sent Tiglath-Pileser III, that's the king of Assyria, whose name is also Pul, and he attacked Israel and turned Israel into a vassal of Assyria. I should stop for a moment and tell you this. I'm not spending, in this class, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the background only because of the amount of information I have. But you need to understand that in the background we have this great war, struggle between major players, Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia. If you think about Nimrod's old kingdom, the kingdom of Nimrod began in Babylon and then it moved into Assyria. And then in Genesis 14, the empire of Assyria, Babylon, and Persia came and attacked the whole region. These players are all jockeying for position, for control of the whole region, have been since Nimrod, and still going on. And here Assyria, which is not to be confused with Syria, which is Aram, but Assyria is on the northern parts of the Tigris and Euphrates. They are controlling Babylon, they are controlling Persia, they're controlling many different countries, and now their incursion is into Israel. And so Tiglath-Pileser says, "You are now my vassal, you've been attacked and defeated," and he's going to get money from them, payment, so that he doesn't come and crush them. 1 Chronicles 5:26 states that they are the same guy as Pul and Tiglath-Pileser are the same guy. Tiglath-Pileser is the one that history understands him to be. Pul is more of a Babylonian designation, and Babylon is not the same thing as Assyria. All right. But the exile begins. He exiles the Reubenites, the Gadites, and some of those from Manasseh. So he's already starting to exile. And Assyria is sucking them out. And Assyria is like a man who has a bag of seeds that's in a place where they should be. He takes them and he throws them throughout his field. That's how the Assyrians deal with people that they're exiling. Now, at this time, with this king Menahem, and he killed Shallum, and with Assyria coming in, it appears as though there's Assyrian evidence that shows that this event caused a division in Israel, for Israel to separate into two different sections. Okay, Tiglath-Pileser testified that there are two separate parts of Israel in his writings that we have, and Hosea 5:5 seems to imply also that there are two different parts of Israel at this time, as this is Hosea's time. He mentions Israel and Ephraim. We'll get into Hebrew parallelism next month, but the Hebrews will use the same, or use two different sentences to describe the same thing. Okay. Our God is on high. He is the king in the highest. You know, those synonymous with each other. God is the king. He's the king in the highest, and God is on high, and he's the king that's on the highest of highs. Those sorts of things. That's Hebrew parallelism. But here, we see often Ephraim is used to be a way of describing all of Israel. But in this particular instance, in Hosea's time, which is around the same time, he says Israel and Ephraim separately. He says Israel and Ephraim and Judah. So I only say all of this because if you're going to calculate the timing of these kings, it has to coincide with this sort of type of event. Because there was a guy, we have Menahem, and there's a man named Pekah. Pekah appears to be the one that's king over the lesser part of Israel, while Menahem is king over the greater part of Israel, but they're united. You could think of Rome, when Rome split between east and west. They were still united, but they were still east and west.
Is Israel and Ephraim east-west?
No. So,
all of Israel is north.
And Tiglath-Pileser made it sound like north-south. So it could be south would be Ephraim, but I'm not sure. It's a good theory, and the Bible's not clear about it, unless you look at the reigns of these people. So Pekahiah was the son of Menahem. When Menahem died, he took over, but he was evil just like Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Pekah was done serving as a lesser king. Don't get confused here. One's Pekahiah is the king, and Pekah is the lesser king and also more of a commander for Pekahiah. So Pekah kills Pekahiah. Okay? And then Pekah becomes the king over all Israel. Okay? And then once he killed Pekahiah, he ruled over all Israel. Nice, we might actually make it. He did the same as Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Tiglath-Pileser III of Assyria took all the land of Naphtali and took them into exile. To combat Assyria, he joined forces with Rezin, the king of Aram. Pekah of Israel joined forces with Rezin, the king of Aram. So they used to fight against each other a lot. Now they have a common enemy. Okay? Assyria is putting pressure from the north. So then we're going to see that Pekah and Rezin are going to put pressure on Judah in the south. Okay? So it's going to force a conflict between Israel and Aram versus Judah, which is a big deal. Now, let's check in with King Uzziah's son, Jotham. King Jotham of Judah was co-regent with Uzziah until Uzziah's death. At his time, Ammon, the Ammonites, were vassalized by Judah. They rebelled once Uzziah died, because that's what they do. But he grew more powerful and he was good. But the people themselves, I mentioned earlier, sometimes you can have a good king, but the people are corrupt. Well, that's what's happening in King Jotham's day in Judah. Okay? So because the people were corrupt, he sent Rezin and Pekah against him. Okay, he sent the Arameans and the Israelites against Judah. Next time I need a big map so I can point. I didn't think of that till this morning. All right, so now we have King Ahaz in Judah, okay, and he's the son of Jotham, okay, grandson of Uzziah. King Ahaz is co-regent with Jotham for a while. He walks in disobedience like the kings of Israel, and he walks in the disobedience of the Canaanites. He even sacrificed his own son in fire. This King Ahaz is a bad guy. He's in the book of Isaiah as well. Isaiah 7. Actually, if you want to understand the context of Isaiah 7, you have to understand this is the house of David, and what in the world are they doing these days? So Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Israel were defeating him and taking his cities. And so he goes to the Assyrians for help. And he says to Assyria, the king of Judah says, I'll become your vassal if you give them a hassle. So, and the Assyrians agreed to. Tiglath-Pileser agreed to.
A vassal is like a lesser partner?
Yes, it's like you and I are going to partner together. Because if we don't, I'm going to take all your money and stuff. So why don't you pay me a certain amount of money and nobody will mess with you. Because they know that it's the mob. Yeah. That's right. He comes, hey, I just want to wet my beak a little. How was your business? Oh, business wasn't so good. Well, that's too bad. I want the full amount. Okay. Yes, sir. But Assyria defeated Aram, and he took the Arameans into exile. The Arameans were defeated at that point by the Assyrians. Okay. So after the Assyrians helped out Judah so much, he decided to go and see the sights and meet Tiglath-Pileser, and he saw the great altar that Tiglath-Pileser had, and he said, I'm going to make one just like that. We've got a temple in Jerusalem. We'll move that ridiculous altar that's there now, and we'll put this new one in. It'll look just like yours. It's like, cool, okay. And he made other changes. He was altering the temple. Remember, God gave specific directions to David for the temple. He didn't care. He's going to do what he wants. And then he closed the doors. He shut the doors of the temple. Then we have the final king of Israel, King Hoshea. Hoshea killed Pekah. Boy, it's not good to be king in Israel. So Hoshea kills Pekah. But if you kill the king, you become king, even if for a week. Hoshea killed Pekah likely.
Randy, how would you mind locking up when you guys leave?
No, I don't mind. Have fun.
We're going to Burritos, don't follow.
No worries. So he kills him likely because Pekah failed. He failed. Pekah at the fall of the Arameans, Pekah has failed. And so Hoshea can do a better job. Right. But he did evil in the eyes of the Lord as well. Then Tiglath-Pileser dies. Shalmaneser V, who was Tiglath-Pileser's son, was reigning in Assyria. And he came against Hoshea, and he turned Israel, the northern kingdom, into a vassal. So now you have a situation where Assyria has the northern kingdom of Israel as a vassal and the southern kingdom of Judah as a vassal. Okay? Then Hoshea, after 3 years, he rebels against Assyria and joins an alliance with Egypt because the big fight is really between the Assyrians and the Egyptians. And the little guys in the middle get in the way. And if you can get them to join your side, then you'll have a better chance of keeping them away from that region. So
You're saying Assyria took Israel and Judah?
vassals.
This is okay, gotcha. This
Is not. This is about to be the exile.
Okay.
Because Hoshea rebels and he allies with Egypt. And then Shalmaneser V, yes.
So when it says paid in tribute, is that what you're talking about, the vassal?
Yes, that's it. When you're paying tribute, it's because you're a vassal. Pay Pay me or I'll kill you. It's blackmail money of sorts. Well, not really. So, Shalmaneser V and his son Sargon II after him, they're laying siege to Samaria for 3 years. And they're defeating, because Hoshea rebelled and joined forces with Egypt. So 3 years, the northern kingdom of Israel was no more, and all the horrors of Deuteronomy 28 were fulfilled, including the cannibalism. Which, if you want to understand that, go and read Deuteronomy 28. And if you want to understand that, you can go and read Josephus' account of the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD and what was going on there. It's very disturbing stuff. Why were they exiled? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Bible says why. They feared other gods, and they were idolaters in the northern kingdom of Israel. They walked in the Canaanites' detestable practices. This is what God told them not to do. Every single law was like the opposite of what the Canaanites were doing. If he said, don't do this, he usually would add, these are the practices that all of those who lived in the land before you were doing. Do not do them, or I will kick you out too. So they did it. The kings of Israel invented new ways to sin, which can be done when you take something righteous and combine it with something foul. Plus the people's secret sins, the sins that they were committing that we weren't told about. God was angry at that. They transgressed the rules of Deuteronomy 12. They were going to only worship God in Dan and in Bethel and in all the high places and on every spreading tree and all that garbage. They didn't listen to the prophets that God had sent to them. He sent them many prophets. There are books. Next semester you will go through the prophets, and you can. This is the backdrop for the prophets. Every prophet you're going to hang in a certain section of the Bible here. So this would be really good so that you know what's going on in the kingdom when you're reading through the prophet. Refer back to this, okay? This whole presentation. They rejected the covenant that God had made with them, the one that they had promised that they would do it, and they modeled themselves after the nations around them when they were supposed to be the light to the nations around them. Instead, they modeled themselves after the nations around them. And this is supposed to be a kingdom of priests. Instead, they're going to act like everybody else. They did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Isn't that amazing? It started with that one guy. And it blossomed. If Jeroboam had done the right thing in the beginning, because his name is mentioned so often, right? If he'd have done the right thing in the beginning, it might have been differently.
Kind of like Adam?
Yeah. Yeah, well, one up me. That was a good one up. I can't.
That was a really good one.
That was a really good one up. All right, let's look at the background to the Samaritans, the Samaritan people. Understand this. Not all the Israelites went into exile. Some of them remained in the land, okay, but they're going to continue in their practices. A lot of them went into exile. Like I said, it's like grabbing the seeds and scattering them. Well, Assyria, their policy, they got other seeds that they grabbed from one location and they're going to throw them into Israel, okay? And people that are far from their homes and far from their customs, the places that they do, and people that are a mix of towns. Well, where do you come from? Oh, you come from Media? Okay, I come from Babylonia. Well, what do you guys do? We used to do this sort of thing. So they're mixing their culture together. Plus you have the people that are in the land who are mixing with it. Exactly. Yeah. It's a good idea to keep your defeated people from rebelling against you. Throw them in with people that they don't know or don't like. Hopefully they'll fight each other. But this is Samaria. In Samaria, they did not follow the Lord, so he sent lions against them. And so the Assyrians said, let's take some priests and send them into the land so that they know how to worship the Lord. But instead of worshiping the Lord, they had a pantheon of the gods. So it's a mixture of gods, and the Lord is just one of the gods. The I Am is just one of the gods in their eyes, okay? So there were many Israelites who had not gone into captivity in the land, and these are the Samaritans. These are the forefathers of the Samaritans. So it's this mixture of Israel with the nations.